Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the first ever Finale Fireworks online Pyro Technology Conference. My name is Drew Espenshade. It's my privilege to be here on behalf of the Finale 3D team and with the team and our panelists hosting this event. I know it can be a bit tricky joining an online event, so before we jump into the first session, which is the Finale 3D Keynote by Will Harvey, I would like to take a few minutes to give everyone a chance to join. And during that time, I'll give a brief overview of the Zoom interface, a review of the PTC schedule, an introduction to the Finale 3D team, and finally, a couple of special announcements. Let's get right to it. All right, here we go. So first, I want to give a brief introduction of the Zoom interface. Here's a screenshot of what the interface may look like on your computer. Note that these screenshots were taken on a PC, so if you're on a Mac or a mobile device, then the interface may look a little bit different, but it should be similar, and this should be a few good tips for you. So starting out, item number one here, if I'm sharing my screen, you're probably finding that on your device that the screen share is maximized on your screen. If you'd like to make it a little bit smaller, if you need to get to one of your other applications, you can do view options at the top to exit full screen. If you'd like to re-enter full screen, you can see item number 2 here, which is the enter full screen button. Now, down here on the bottom, these are the ways that you interact with us during the conference. You have the chat, raise hand, and Q&A. I've seen some folks raising their hand. I've seen some questions coming in. That's fantastic. For this conference, we'll have the chat disabled just due to the size and the number of people attending. Also, the raise your hand feature is probably not something we'll use that often, but you could perhaps raise your hand if we post a question and then ask for a raise of hands, for example. Finally is the Q&A. This is the best way to interact with us during the conference. You can go ahead and hit that button and then type in a question. Our panelists are standing by, and the Finale 3D team, who's not presenting, is standing by to answer any questions you may have. Finally, I want to mention the leave meeting button. Of course, we hope that you don't want to leave, but if you need to leave for any reason, feel free to hit that button and allow you to leave the conference. I do want you to know the conference is not locked at any point, so if you need to leave and you'd like to come back for a later session, you're free to come in and leave anytime you need to. We won't be locking at any time. All right, so with that, I want to show one more thing. If you minimize the Zoom interface on your end, it has this habit of going into a really small window, and that'll be whatever I'm showing will end up in a very small window, or whatever is being presented will end up in a very small window in the corner of your screen. And you can just use the enlarge minimize video button to kind of bring that back, because it's a little bit too small to see there, especially when we're sharing slide deck or the Finale 3D interface. So that's a little bit of an overview on the Zoom interface. Let's take a look at the PTC schedule. So here's the schedule for PTC. I'm gonna give just a quick brief overview here, but if you'd like to refer back to the schedule at any time, you can do that by visiting pyro-technology-conference.com. So that's easy to do. So today we're starting out, I'm just doing a brief introduction, and then we'll jump into the Finale 3D keynote. That'll be Will Harvey. Then we'll have the power users presenting their favorite Finale 3D features. Really excited to have Dirk Enders here, Mike Kroger, and Vitor Machado. For our session 3, this will be the 3rd hour today. We have our partner presentations. We're very excited to have Scott Smith here from Cobra, Lorian Antochi from FireTech, and Marcel Berner from Pyro Digital. And then finally, to round out the sessions today, we have an introduction to Finale 3D. Now, if you're already an experienced user, don't miss out, because you still might learn something new. Tomorrow's day 2, we have masterclass content for 4 straight hours. This is where we'll take a deeper dive on on a whole host of Finale 3D features, starting out with the first session of the day, productivity features, jumping into creating effects, addressing and racking, and then custom reports, and an end of day wrap up for the conference. So that's your brief overview. And again, if you need to refer back to the schedule anytime, it's available on pyro-technology-conference.com. All right, next I'll do a brief introduction of the Finale 3D team. First, I'd like to introduce Will Harvey, the founder and CEO of Finale Fireworks. Most of you probably know Will. If you don't know Will, there he is. I had to say that. Everybody knows Will Harvey. So Will is also the co-founder of Finale Inventory, which he founded with his partners about just over 10 years ago. And he's also one of the developers on our team responsible for writing code for the software, and we're very proud of him for that. Dusty Leary, he's our principal software engineer and visual effect specialist. It's impossible to name all the things that Dusty does for us at Finale 3D, but I will name just a couple things really quickly. If you like the 3D effects that you see in Finale 3D, that is Dusty, and that's what you're seeing there. That's his handiwork. Next, there's myself, Drew Espenshade, as I mentioned earlier. I am responsible for sales, marketing, and customer success here at Finale Fireworks, and it's my privilege to be here once again. I'm really excited about the event, as you can tell. Finally, I'd like to introduce Dirk Enders. Dirk's not a full-time member of our team, but he's a great friend and a Finale 3D consultant based in Germany. He works with clients throughout Europe and around the world. I also want to say special thanks to Dirk for being the original mastermind of the PTC conference. As some of you may know, the conference was originally intended to be an in-person event held in Frankfurt, but unfortunately, due to the health crisis, we had to bring it online. However, we're really excited about the online format. We think this is something that we'll continue to do, but we hope to also have our in-person conferences back next year. So look to join Dirk in Frankfurt next year, probably in March or May 2021. So with that, I'll go ahead and make a couple special announcements. So starting out, I'd like to announce that we're going to host a choreography contest, and let's look at a couple of the specifics about the contest. First, starting out, we'll be starting the competition on June 15th with a submission deadline on July 15th. That's the tentative plan. Really excited about this. The next thing to note is that it's a contest open to all Finale 3D hobbyists and pro users. So regardless of which version of the software you use, you'll be able to enter the competition. We'll have two different categories. So the show's design in the pro software won't be judged against the show's design in the hobbyist software. So it'll give everybody kind of an equal chance. We anticipate the show entries being 5 to 6 minutes, limited to 5 or 6 minutes in duration, and a minimum of 2 songs. And we may provide a list of songs to choose from, or we may have, open to any songs. You'll have your choice of products within the scope of some type of budget or quota or point system, which will make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more of a challenge to create a really good show. The complete rules will be posted on Facebook. So if you're not a member of the Finale 3D Fireworks group on Facebook, or you don't follow Finale Fireworks on Facebook, be sure you do, because as soon as we officially launch the competition in mid-June, that's where all the details will be. All right, now, here's the important part, the grand prize. If you're a pro user, the grand prize, first place, is $1,000 US. It's a cash prize. You can do whatever you want with it. We have cash prizes for second and third place as well. On the hobbyist side, the grand prize is $500 with smaller prizes for second and third place. So really excited about this competition, and we hope everyone participates. I have one more special announcement here, which is a promotion special today for PTC. We have never done anything quite like this before. So without further ado, 10% lifetime discount on all purchases of Finale 3D. The reason this is special is because it applies to all license types. It has been the case in the past that we've done some discounts on the pro version, but we have never discounted the hobbyist version, and we very rarely discount any additional licenses or additional machine licenses. So if you've been waiting to make that purchase of Finale 3D, now is your best time. The way you can do that is by going to the Finale 3D website, finale3d.com, and in the store, when you do the online checkout, you can use the code PTC2020. Now, very importantly, that code is valid through June 1st, which is next Monday, so don't wait to make that purchase. And again, 10% off all licenses, and there's no limitations on how that coupon can be used, as long as you act before Monday, June 1st. The other thing that we'd like to offer as part of the promotion today, we do pride ourselves on our customer service, but in addition to that, we'd like to go above and beyond and offer free personalized one-on-one training to anyone who would like to sign up for it. You can do that by reaching out to us via email through our website, and we'll get you on the schedule to do that. So that's the end of the introduction period. I'm now going to bring in Will Harvey, our CEO, for the Finale 3D keynote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the first PTC event. I'd like to lead off by telling you how much I appreciate your coming and how much of a privilege it is for my colleagues and me to be working with you in a relationship where we are the software developers and you are the domain experts who basically tell us what to do. Leading up to the event today, we've done almost 300 user tests of 1 or 2 hours long each over screen share. We've also done countless individual conversations over screen share and email and phone. Every one of these interactions with you has served to improve the software. So that's a reflection of the relationship that we have with you. The goal of this conference is to give you the information to get the most out of your relationship with us. The focus of my talk specifically is to give you information about new features that we're releasing today that have been under development for some time, and also to lay out the product feature roadmap over the next year. So let's get started. We'll begin with the new features that are available today. Then I'll talk about the roadmap. Then I'll have a special section dedicated to the effect editor. And finally, we have a gift for everyone who attends. This is not a joke, so please stay to the end of this conference, of this talk for sure. We'll begin with the new features that are available today. The new features fit in two categories: improvements to rendering accuracy. And by that, I mean, how close can you get to the specifications of a real-world product with the simulation in Finale? The second category of new features is user interface improvements. In the rendering accuracy improvements, I'm going to start by showing you two videos of cakes that up to today were not really possible to get an accurate simulation of in Finale. And after today, with the effect editor, you can get quite close simulation. So let's begin with that. The first cake is a 3-layer mine cake. I'll show you the video here. Great. I'll play that through once more, and this time I'd like you to focus on one aspect of this mine specifically. The middle layer has charcoal stars with crackle sparks in the charcoal stars. So take a look at that and try to remember, because we're going to show you a simulation just after. Great. Okay, here comes the second video. The second video is a shell cake. I'd also like you to pay attention to something specifically in this cake. Pay attention to the smoke, specifically the smoke that's part of the rising effect, and the smoke from the stars, and the smoke from the break flashes themselves. And as the cake progresses on its 100 shots, you'll see the lighting from the stars illuminate the smoke in the background. You get the idea. Now let's switch to the Finale 3D simulation and take a look at how close we can get. This is using the new release available today. First, we'll show you the mine cake, the 3-layer mine cake. I'll play that through once more. Again, take a look at the center layer of the charcoal stars with crackle sparks. Great. Now let's take a look at the second cake, which is a shell cake, and please pay attention to the smoke. You'll see there's still some smoke in the background from the previous cake. Here we go. Great. So these videos are closer in accuracy to the specifications of those effects than we've been able to achieve up to today. They aren't quite photorealistic. You can notice that there are still some characteristics like the mortar flare that are missing, but they're getting close. We expect to be able to get to photorealism in about 3 years from now, and it'll be an incremental path from now to then. Today is a step forward. I have 2 more videos that I'd like to show you, real-world videos of 2 effects that are significantly more complex than any effects that you've seen in Finale heretofore. One of them is a multi-break shell, the last break of which is a shell of shells, and the other is a Maltese shell that has multiple breaks and a tremendous amount of nuance in those breaks that, unless you're familiar with this type of shell, you might not even notice when you see it for the first time. So let's jump in and take a look at these real-world videos. First, the multi-break shell. When I play through this, please try to commit this to memory because I'm going to come back to it at the end of the talk. So remember as much of this as you can. Do you know how many breaks that was? Let's give it one more try. Okay, maybe you have a count in your head of how many breaks that shell was. Let's now look at the Maltese break shell. This shell has only 3 breaks. Each break has a tremendous degree of nuance in it, though. Terrific. So we're going to return to these 2 shells at the end of the presentation. Coming back now to the improvements in the new release of the software today, the second category is user interface improvements. One of the most controversial features in Finale 3D is the effect palette in the upper right corner of the simulation view. Some people like it and rely on it. Other people hate it and tell us they hate it just about every day. So in the new release today, the effect palette is gone. And here's why. The new release has a new design for the effect window, the table of effects, and the user interface on that window. Let's take a look. The first thing you'll notice in the effect window is that there are significantly more rows than there used to be. People have asked to be able to display more information. The second thing you'll notice is that the filters at the top of the window have been redesigned. The redesign is not just to make them look better, it's to make them more usable. When you select a filter, like filtering to dahlias, for example, the filter now shows up highlighted significantly different from everything else on the screen. So you know that a filter is active and limiting the results being shown. The quantities filter, which allows you to filter to what you've used in the show or what you have available in the inventory system or what you've used too much of or too little of or just the right amount of. This filter now does not interact and does not interfere with the full text filter on the left. Previously, it would insert some text that would be confusing if you also filtered for a word or 2. The full text feature has incremental search. So as I type, results are being filtered. And when you have a filter active, it turns blue like the others to make sure that you are aware that your results are limited. Sometimes it's useful when you have filters to be able to switch between different filters that you've created easily. When doing that, you may also be switching between different table layouts, say for scripting versus racking versus editing. Those layouts are called blueprints, and we now have buttons to switch between the available blueprints here. So as I click these buttons, we're switching between different arrangements of rows and columns. The buttons are each labeled with the first 2 letters of the name of the blueprint. If you want to make your own blueprint, let's say I just shrink this column here, and I want to create a blueprint with this table layout and filtered to everything that's blue, I click on this button on the far right and save it as a new blueprint. I get a new button here for my new blueprint, and now I can toggle between the other blueprints and my new blueprint by clicking on the buttons. If I don't like it, I can delete it, as easy as that. These improvements to the effect window were required in order to remove the effect palette in the upper right. Because to remove the effect palette, we had to provide an alternative that was just as good. And I think we've gotten there now. Let me show you the improved workflow for inserting and replacing effects. Beginning with a new show here, let's say I have some cues on the timeline that don't have any effects in them yet. Now I'd like to insert effects of a specific kind in each one of these cues. I'll press the left arrow on my keyboard to move the selected cue to the far left. With that selected, now I would like to insert, let's just say, for example, I want to insert 4-inch red peonies on all of the positions at this cue. To do that, I go to the script menu, and I'm going to do the choose effect command, which is bound to the C key or the enter key. It's quicker to type the key than go to the menu, so I'm going to just press the C key. It shows me some instructions once. And here's what happens. That pops up the effect window, and it focuses the full text search. I want red peony, so I'm going to type red peony. And as I do, the results are being filtered to what I'm typing. When I get it close enough that I can see what I want this 4-inch red peony, I'm going to just press the down arrow 4 times to get to it. And now I press Control Enter to insert them into the show. I can use the mouse as well, but if my hands are on the keyboard, it may be more quick for me to use Control Enter. Now watch how quick it is for me to do the same thing to the next cue. I press the right arrow to select the second cue, press the C key to focus this window and to focus the full text selection. Let's say that I want blue falling leaves. Again, 4-inch. Scroll down to the 4-inch, press Control Enter. They're inserted into the show. If I'm working on a show that I scripted last year and reusing that show, I may be in need of updating effects used in the show last year to the effects that are available to me this year. As an example, let's just say that the blue falling leaves that I just inserted were from last year's show, and what I actually want to do is replace them with green falling leaves. Same workflow. I press the C key. The full text field becomes selected. I type in green falling leaves. Cursor down to the effect that I want. And now instead of pressing Control Enter to insert, I press Control Shift Enter, and it replaced those effects with the green falling leaves. So with the changes today to the user interface, inserting and replacing effects is much quicker. For those people who design in full screen mode, like this, the new effect window also replaces the effect palette. If I press the C key, the effect window pops up. I insert effects just as I described before. And this time, when I press Control Enter to insert this effect, the window is going to dismiss automatically. So it pops up when I'm inserting or replacing, it dismisses automatically. If I don't want it to dismiss automatically, I just move the window a little bit, and then it will stay in place and won't disappear after inserting the effect. For those people who use the mouse, all of the same drag and drop features like dragging an effect to a position or clicking on an effect button continue to work. So the new user interface improvements in today's release, I think, will make your scripting experience much better. Moving on to the roadmap for next year. Our product development has progressed in 4 phases in the 4 colors here: white, red, green, and blue. We're currently in the red phase. These are quarters, 3-month periods. So this is the beginning of the year. We're in quarter number 2 here at the end of May. So we're not quite halfway through the red period. In this red period, we're addressing the hot list of feature requests. These are urgent requests that I hear about from you almost every day. The good news is that this list is not very long, and we expect to finish it in a little bit more than a quarter from now. When we get done with that, we're turning our attention to the fit and finish of the product, the polish. We're dedicating 2 quarters, 6 months, 3 months at the end of this year, 3 months at the beginning of next year, to improving the little things, the keyboard shortcuts, the time to launch the product, the lag, the prominent bugs, fine-tuning the user interface. Little things, but they matter. So by the beginning of next year, we expect the software to feel much higher quality. After the polish phase, beginning 2nd quarter of next year, we enter the go beyond stage. Our old software Finale business made it possible to add patterns and motifs to scripts that before that software were difficult to do. And consequently, when people design shows in Finale business, the shows made use of the features of the patterns and the motifs that were easy to do. And that led to shows designed in Finale business having a certain look to them. Prominent designers around the world came to me and told me that they could identify a show that was made in Finale business just by the look of the show. I took that as kind of a badge of honor, but we don't yet have a look for Finale 3D shows, which I take to mean that Finale 3D really hasn't gotten to the stage yet of making it enough easier to do new things that were not possible in Finale business or in other software before Finale 3D yet. So we haven't gotten there yet, but we will in the go beyond stage. A number of you have given incredible out-of-the-box ideas for user interface paradigms and ways that the software can make it possible to script things that have never been possible before. We're going to get to do all those in the middle of next year in the go beyond phase. Let's look at some of the details now. The number 1 hot list request is saved user settings and blueprints. We think after the release today with the blueprint buttons that this is going to be even more highly requested. We hear about this almost every day. We expect to finish this in June. Finale 3D has extraordinarily powerful rack layout features, but they're difficult to use. And I'm fearful that a number of people, a relatively large fraction of our users of Finale 3D don't know how to make use of the power and capabilities for rack layout. That's our problem for making the software not easy enough to use. So we've got to fix that. With Finale 3D, we learned a lesson from our previous software that all reports had to be customizable because everyone wants slightly different things. But when we made the reports fully customizable in Finale 3D, we also took a step backwards, because when you make something fully customizable, it's more difficult to have all of the specific fine-tuning and functionality that you can have if you design a specific report that is just a one-off. So in the hot list, we're going to be adding the features to the reports that have been missing, such as being able to combine tables in the same report, add formatting on the reports, add subtotals. All of these new features that we are adding will be fully customizable. The rendering improvements to accuracy that I showed you at the beginning require the effect editor to make right now. If you import your inventory or type in VDL effect descriptions to create the effects, the rendering is partially improved, but not 100% as improved with the accuracy that you saw in those simulations. So we have to lift those improvements into the VDL and import inventory generated effects. Some users of Show Director and other software have learned over the years to use their fingers and script in the scripting window incredibly quickly. And their fingers have learned it, and it's so efficient for them that they, and some of them, prefer to continue scripting that way even though they don't get the visuals. Well, that's a false choice. It shouldn't be an either-or choice of having the visuals or having efficient scripting in the scripting table window. So part of our hot list is to improve the scripting table window, all of the efficiencies of using the keyboard and commands for scripting in a row-based table editor, to make it possible for people to have the same level of efficiency that they've had over the years and have that same efficiency along with the visuals. Lastly, we're going to add full comprehensive support for timecode, including exporting timecode of various formats, the choice of mixing timecode and audio on different channels. We're even going to read in timecode and provide visualization in real time. That's our hot list. We expect to do that by the end of next quarter. The next 6 months, toward the end of this year in the polish phase, obviously include a lot more than just these 5 examples, but these are the most prominent examples. There's a list of more than 100 little tiny things that we're going to do, and the 100 all add up to give the feeling of quality. But here are just a few to point out. A number of companies have specific angles that they script to. Maybe they have pre-configured mortars or single-shot racks that have notches for specific angles. We're going to improve the way that Finale 3D handles angles and provide the ability for users to define their own angle presets and to give them names, like A, B, C, D, E, F, if they want. We'll provide more rack diagrams, including 3D diagrams like Finale Business had. The effect editor is very capable. Over the course of the polish period, we'll make it easier to use and more approachable. We will continue to improve the graphics. The next improvements that you'll see will be mortar flare and environmental lighting from the effects themselves. And we'll work on application performance and quality. When we get done with the polishing feature, now we're into the middle third of next year, we'll be working on going beyond. We'll be adding special effects, cryo, colored smoke, streamers, confetti, etc., and moving lights for stage lighting, along with animation of the moving lights and animation of stage objects and pyrotechnic objects, including set pieces, castillos, and so forth. The new UI paradigms that I mentioned have come from a number of ideas that we've had in conversations with you, and a number of new ideas that I expect we'll hear about when we get to this phase. To name just 1 or 2, we'll add an AI scripting wizard, which you can think of as an assistant. For those people listening who script hundreds or thousands of shows a year, the AI scripting wizard will act as your assistant so that you can design specific points in the show and then fill in the gaps with a product that you've allocated to flesh out the show in a way that's an efficient use of your time. We'll be moving the application progressively to mobile and to the web. This reflects a change in direction, a decision that we made last year. Previously, we were going to do a Mac native version when we finished the PC version, but the PC version has taken so long that we're always putting off the Mac version and never getting to it. The root of that problem is that it's hard when you're developing one product to ever finish that product and feel that it's a good decision to go back and port it to a different platform while halting your future development. So when we've looked out at the progression of technology over the next 5 years, we've realized that there's a movement in technology for productivity applications like this to be on the web using web-based technologies. And 5 years from now, we expect most of the high-end software for productivity will be running on web technologies. Web technologies that run both on the PC and on the Macintosh natively. So instead of stopping what we're doing and switching to Mac development, what we're going to be doing is progressively adding more and more features to the application. So we're never stopping, but the new features that we will add will use web technologies, which means that over the next 5 years, we incrementally shift the application to working on the web. The first example of this is the effect editor that I'm going to be giving you a demonstration of in a couple of minutes. The effect editor is based on web technologies, so it will also work on mobile and the web when we move in that direction. Finally, as I mentioned before, the rendering quality will continue to improve. We think we're about 3 years away from photorealism. You'll see improvements today, you'll see more improvements in the next quarter, and every quarter. This will be just a steady improvement, a steady march. That lays out the roadmap for the next year. Now I'm going to talk about the effect editor specifically. At the beginning of this talk, I showed you 2 videos of complex shells that were not possible to do in Finale 3D. I'm going to go back and show you those 2 videos now, and this time I really want you to try to memorize them because we're going to go and reproduce those shells in Finale 3D. Here we go. The first shell was a multi-break shell. See if you can count how many breaks it has. This is the one that ends in a shell of shells. Right. The second shell is the Maltese shell. Unless you're familiar with this type of shell, you'll probably miss something because there's a tremendous degree of subtlety the Maltese put into their breaks. Now we'll switch back to Finale 3D. And take a look at simulations of those 2 shells in Finale 3D. First, the multi-break shell. How many breaks did it have? Next, the Maltese shell. See if you can identify all of the subtlety that's in each one of the breaks. Top shot. breaks. Let's go and take a look now by zooming in on the timeline and looking at this break at the millisecond level. Look at the first break here. We're seeing some dust from the break there. Actually, you're seeing the smoke from the previous shell, the shell of shells back here, so ignore that. There, you may not have even seen this, but there's actually a ring of red flashes before the titanium breaks. It all goes by so fast you can barely see it, but it's there, and it's a subtlety that the Maltese recognize. So I'm going to use the effect editor now, and in order to introduce the interactivity of the effect editor, I'm going to increase the intensity of these red flashes to make it more obvious. Here we go. Customize this effect simulations parameters is the effect editor. Give me a moment here. Okay. So let's find that first break. There's the red in that first break. Now, when we open the effect editor brings up a hierarchical view of the shell, progressing from what leaves the ground to what happens in the air. This shell has 4 breaks, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to be working on the first break, so I'm going to expand the first break here. The first break actually has 4 petals in it. One of the petals is the break dust in the center. The petal that I'm going to be working on here is the petal with the red flashes. Here it is. So when I expand any one of these nodes in the tree, I get panels that have parameters that I can adjust. As I adjust the parameters, you'll see the adjustments in the shell. So I'm going to adjust the diameter or intensity of the red just by bringing them up. And that's it. You can see the effect there. We'll close the effect editor. And we just made a change to that effect. So if I go back to the show now, and let's start out, before we play through it, let's make sure by zooming in and seeing it at the millisecond level, yeah, there it is. See the red? Significantly more intense than it was before. Okay, so now when we play through, you can see more of the red. Only on the first break. The second break and third break we didn't change. It's only on the first break. Terrific. You can see in the picture here some other panels on the effect editor. In this panel, I was creating a custom pattern by drawing a smiley face. So there's quite a bit there in the effect editor that for you to explore. We've been talking about the effect editor for some time, and so today I finally want to give a definitive announcement to when we're shipping it. I can be definitive because the shipping date is today. At the end of the conference today, we will put out the new release with the changes that I've shown you at the beginning of this talk for rendering accuracy and for UI improvements. It also includes the effect editor for public release without the beta caveat for the first time. At the beginning of this talk, I mentioned how much I appreciate our relationship with us as the software developers and you as the domain experts who basically tell us what to do, and we enjoy doing it, and everyone benefits. About 9 years ago, we created a t-shirt that had an insignia on it of click, drag, boom. The t-shirts were very popular and they sold out immediately. We have updated that logo to a more modern font to bring it up to the times. And we are going to print out custom commemorative versions of this t-shirt for everyone who attends the PTC today and tomorrow. When I say personalized, I mean that in a non-trivial way. Here's what's going to happen. The t-shirts will have the click, drag, boom logo on the front of them. On the back of them, they will have the PTC logo and a collection of autographs of everyone who is attending today and chooses to participate. So here are instructions for you to get a free gift with your signature on the free gift and everyone else's signature on the free gift on the back. 3-step instructions. You'll find, in just a second, a piece of paper and a pen and sign your name. Pull out your cell phone and take a picture of that piece of paper with your name on it. And then from your cell phone, email it to me, will@finale3d.com. And also, typing on your cell phone in that email, please include your mailing address and what size t-shirt you would like. If you don't mind, please also include your name so I know who to address it to. There are a few hundred people on the call here, so there are going to be a lot of signatures on the back and a lot of work for us. Do this right now. It should just take you a minute or two to find a piece of paper and a pen, take a picture, and email it to me. I don't want to hurry you, but I would like you to be able to achieve this right now. So I'm going to play some music for 2 minutes and give you a chance to do this so you don't miss out. Okay, go to it.
Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, now Constantinople, been a long time gone. Constantinople, now it's Turkish delight on a moonlit night. Every gal in Constantinople lives in Istanbul, now Constantinople. So if you've a date in Constantinople, she'll be waiting in Istanbul. Even old New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. So take me back to Constantinople. No, you can't go back to Constantinople. Been a long time gone. Constantinople, why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. Istanbul. Istanbul. Istanbul, even old New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. Istanbul was Constantinople, now it's Istanbul. Now Constantinople, been a long time gone. Constantinople, why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. Constantinople, no you can't go back to Constantinople, been a long time gone. Constantinople, why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. Istanbul.
Terrific, thank you everyone. that's the end of the prepared remarks. So we'll take some questions now. If you're still working on the email, you can do that in the background. I'm going to switch to taking questions over chat. So as Drew explained at the beginning, you can ask questions. Okay, I have a question here. The color of in the position in the script is optional. I prefer one color because the similar color can be confusing. And okay, so let me answer this question here. My colleague Drew is probably smiling right now because he's asked me the same question and he had the same feedback as this question. So let me switch to the application and I'll show you the answer to this question and also give a more full explanation. So I think the person was asking about the colors in the position column here. I'm going to switch to a new show. And insert one effect in each new position. So we've got 9 effects here. There are each one at a different position, and the position column is color coded. If you don't want that, we have an ability to turn it off with a per show setting. We also have the ability to change these colors here. These colors at this moment are set to match the position colors, but in the show menu, there's a function, a menu item to set the script row color mapping. It's currently set to position. If I change this to none, the colors on the left will disappear. I can also change it to reflect the track. If I have different tracks for a semi-automatic show and I want the tracks to be color-coded, or I can set it to the hazard, rail address, size, and so forth. Or if I have my own color coding scheme as a designer, I can put my own color coding scheme in the custom field, and the custom field then becomes the key that causes the...
Will, you're...
Share your screen?
Oh, boy, I'm sorry about that.
You only saw your face, not what you are doing.
Okay, well, I hope I was smiling for that. Sorry about that. Let me just show my screen here and answer that question again. Okay, apologies. So here's the show that I was showing a second ago. The position column has different colors for each position, and there are also colors over here reflecting at this moment the color identified with the position. But if you don't want that, just go to the script menu, the show menu, and go to color mapping for the script row, and you can change it from position to nothing if you want nothing, or you can change it to another field. I've got another question here. Can I please explain in more detail how to create effects that we showed you step by step? That's more than I'm going to accomplish in the keynote address today, but we will show that tomorrow in the effect creation talk. So in tomorrow's schedule, there's a whole section dedicated to effects, of which part of it is creating them in the effect editor row by row. Another question here, what are the updates in the works for the hobbyist version? The effect editor is in the hobbyist version. So we are dedicated to making the hobbyist version great on its own. The pro version has some features that are pro only, but the both versions are going to be great, and the effect editor is part of both versions. Another question coming in about updates on the backdrop and scene improvements. So yes, actually, I'm not sure exactly where those are going to fill in. When I laid out the roadmap, I laid out that there were a set of hot items that we're working on now, and then there's a polish phase, and then there's a go beyond phase. We also have a list of features that they don't really fit into any of those categories, and they aren't specifically on the roadmap. They're features that we want to do, and they're going to be wonderful features, but they aren't polishing features, and they aren't being asked by everybody right this day. Backdrop and scene improvements are an example of those features. We've got some wonderful suggestions from people on improvements that we can make, and we plan to do it. We just don't know when. So as we've laid out the schedule, we have enough time in the schedule to kind of bring in features that we hit along the way because their implementation is similar to other things that we're working on, or it was a weekend and our developers thought we could do a great job on that feature and knock it out that weekend. So there's going to be a constant stream of other features that are not on the list that I gave that will come out incrementally, and backdrop and scene improvements are on that list. A question about the VR feature. We did have VR headset integration 6 years ago, and we stopped supporting that while we were working on other parts of the product. So we're going to bring it back. That's in the Go Beyond section of the roadmap. And also to those people who use VR, we'd be interested to hear your suggestions about possible user interface paradigms for scripting using your VR headset. Another question, will multi-screen support be improved in the current roadmap? Yes, that's in the polishing phase. There's a question about LTC support. I love it when we get questions that actually stump me. So I'll have to get back to you on the LTC support and interfaces and what we're going to support. We don't have the plan completely fleshed out. So if you're a timecode expert, we would appreciate your help. We've got a number of people who have given us suggestions. We have a plan, but if you're a timecode expert, we'd like to make sure that we implement what you need. I'll take one or two more questions, and then I'll switch back to Drew, who will continue with the next presentation. Question about how long this conference is. It's 4 hours each day. So we're at the end of the first hour today. We have 3 more hours of presentations, and then we have a 4-hour schedule tomorrow. You can go to the website, Pyro Technology Conference, and you can see the individual sessions. Final question, will we provide these as study materials? Yes, I'm actually going to use that question as my segue back to Drew. We've been working on videos, YouTube videos, and we have a channel now that has different sections of videos for training, and we're going to include all of the study materials from this conference on the YouTube channel, but we've got a lot of other stuff there too. And if you don't know about the other stuff, we want to make sure that you do, because we're working, there's a lot there. So Drew, let me hand the control back to you, and maybe you can pick up with this question as kind of a segue to point people to the YouTube channels on our website before you introduce our next panelist.
All right, thanks, Will. Yeah, I can go ahead and share my screen here. All right, we were originally planning a short intermission, but we can just dive right in and keep on going with the content here. So what I will do is bring up a web browser, And you will be able to see that here. And what I'll do is open a new browser tab. And the YouTube channel that Will mentioned is easy to find. It's just youtube.com /Finale 3D. And we do have several sections of content. The channel is relatively new, but we're fleshing this out all the time. So I continue to add new videos regularly, and we add a lot of them based on demand. So based on the number of times we get asked a particular question. So we have our announcements highlights section, licensing and account setup, which is a really great area if you're just getting started with Finale 3D. Another great area if you're just getting started with Finale 3D is the getting started and quick tutorials. And then we have a section dedicated to those users who are switching from our old software, which is now end of life, which is known as Finale Business. We have a great set of videos here for those users, to help them get their effects transitioned over from Finale Business to Finale 3D. So with that, I'll come back to our presentation, and we'll dive right into session number 2.